Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Acting Secretary of Labor, Seth Harris. Please welcome the Executive Director of the White House Council on Women and Girls and Assistant to the President and Chief of Staff to the First Lady, Tina Chen. Please welcome Congresswoman Rosa Delauro. Please welcome former Senator Chris Dodd. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the 42nd President of the United States, Bill Clinton.
Thanks so much, everybody. Good afternoon. Wow, I can't tell you what it's like to be on that side of an ovation. Wow. So to all of our special guests on the stage and in the audience and watching on our webcast, and welcome to the United States Department of Labor. In addition to the distinguished group that we have on the stage today, there are a few people in the audience I'd like to recognize. It's really my honor and privilege to recognize. First, two of my former bosses are here. Former Secretary Hilda Solis. And former Secretary Alexis Herman. And right alongside them, Army Sergeant Ryan Major and his mother, Lori Knight Major. You're going to hear their story later on in today's celebration. And let me tell you, it's a very important story. You're going to hear about how the rule that the Labor Department is issuing today helps families like theirs. Thank you so much for being here, Ryan and Lori. And Vita Shook, the president of the Airline Flight Attendants Association, is here. Thank you, Vita, for being here. And let me also say, if I may steal a phrase from somebody close to somebody on the stage, it takes a village to raise a law, and there's a village full of people here, many of whom contributed to the Family and Medical Leave Act becoming a law 20 years ago. Give yourselves a round of applause for all the great work you do. I think I owe the Secretary Clinton a royalty now. Do I owe him? So 20 years ago today, the Family and Medical Leave Act codified a simple, fundamental principle, and that is that workers should not have to choose between the job they need and the family they love and need to care for. All of this week, we're going to commemorate what we accomplished 20 years ago. We're going to assess the progress that we've made and ensure this landmark law achieves what Congress intended into the future. Now, I had the privilege of serving on President Clinton's transition team in late 1992 and early 1993, and then in his administration. I remember working with Bob Reich as he prepared to testify in front of Senator Dodd about the Family and Medical Leave Act. Let me say, because of Chris Dodd and Rosa Delauro and other progressive leaders in Congress and outside, the Family and Medical Leave Act had passed both houses of Congress twice, but it had also been vetoed twice by President Bush. Now, the FMLA had entrenched opponents. They proclaimed that the FMLA was bad for business. It was a cynical election year ploy. Those are actual quotes. Editorials attacked it as a disincentive to hire, a sham. They even called it anti-family. Some predicted economic disaster. Companies would go out of business. Massive fraud and abuse would overrun workplaces everywhere. Now I'm motivated because you're here, Chris. Now, those are the same kind of reflexive attacks on workplace regulation that we hear today. It's job killing. It won't work. It's a giveaway to irresponsible workers. Now, those arguments failed in 1993, but it took an election to change the result. The Family and Medical Leave Act was the very first bill that President Clinton signed into law. Now, 20 years later, we know that those critics of the Family and Medical Leave Act were wrong, just as their attacks on workplace regulations today are wrong. Since its enactment, the FMLA has been used over 100 million times by workers managing challenging personal circumstances, all at very little cost to their employers and with very little disruption to the workplace. In the last year alone, 10 million workers took advantage of the job-protected leave guaranteed by the Family Medical Leave Act. Yesterday, the Labor Department released our 2012 survey of employers and employees about the Family Medical Leave Act. That's the third survey in a series that we started back in 1995. Now, our survey found that employers gave the FMLA the same high marks that workers gave it. This law just isn't controversial anymore. The FMLA is ordinary business for America's workers and America's businesses. 85% of covered employers reported that complying with the FMLA was somewhat easy or very easy, or it had no noticeable effect on their workplace. Administering the law has also gotten easier, they've told us. Now, that's the state of the FMLA in its first 20 years, but laws and families and workplaces and work arrangements evolve. The FMLA recognizes that workers aren't only workers. They're mothers and fathers, they're spouses and partners, they're adult children of elderly parents, they're parents of children with disabilities. They serve in our nation's military, they are veterans, they keep us safe on commercial airline flights, and they are the family members of all of the above. The FMLA rule announced today by the Labor Department ensures that the protections enshrined in law 20 years ago will address the particular circumstances of the families that sacrifice for you and me. Under these new rules, a military spouse preparing for her service member's deployment will be able to take time to make financial arrangements and to attend the deployment ceremony. Family members of wounded warriors will be able to fly to a relative's bedside to help with their care and recovery. Relatives of veterans with serious service-related health conditions will be able to transport their kin to doctor's appointments. A parent raising a child alone during a spouse's deployment will be able to spend 15 days together with his or her spouse during R&R. And grieving relatives of those who make the ultimate sacrifice will get the time they are certainly entitled to for funeral services. To Sergeant Ryan Major and Lori Knight Major, who represent all of those heroic American families and many more, thank you both very much for your service to America. Now, this is not the end of the FMLA story. As President Obama said today in his statement, there is more work to do, but we need your help. Later this week and beyond, we'll continue to discuss the future of the Family and Medical Leave Act with legislators and advocates and administration officials and just the public, just ordinary folks. So to engage that discussion, I want you to follow us on Twitter. follow at Acting Sec Harris, at Acting SEC Harris, that's me, and follow us on at USDOL. And you'll stay in touch with our FMLA events all this week. Now, change may seem difficult, but change is possible. When he signed the FMLA into law, President Clinton said, "Today, America's families have beaten the gridlock in Washington." And he was right. America's families have won before, and there's no more important cause. We can do it again, and we will. Thank you very much. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce my friend. You heard her introduced as the Executive Director of the White House Council on Women and Girls. She's the Chief of Staff to the First Lady. She's a great friend of this department, a great friend of working women, and a great friend of the Family Medical Leave Act. Tina Chen.
Well, thank you, Seth. Well, you can tell the energy that Seth has brought to the Department of Labor. Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you for reminding us of the important history that brings us together. And I can't go without acknowledging Hilda Solis and Alexis Herman, who have not only been great leaders of this department, but great friends to me and great supporters of our president. So welcome to you both, and thank you so much. And really today, thank you, especially to everybody who made this day possible. Our congressional leaders, Senator Dodd, Congresswoman Delauro, all of you who are advocates, labor leaders, who have been the voice for working women and men and their families for so many years. And especially to President Clinton, who, for making this bill the first bill that he signed when he came into office. Like President Obama, whose first bill was the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, you recognized the power of the presidency to stand up for working women and working men and their families. And it's really my honor and privilege and my particular joy to follow you in the fight that we continue to this day for those people and to really make workplaces that work for our families. And there's probably no more fitting way to mark this 20th anniversary. We all look so young on this 20th anniversary, right? Than to extend the benefits of family and medical leave to those most deserving, our military families. The First Lady talked about that here in last year here at the Department of Labor when we announced the proposed rule. And she said, our servicemen and women inspire us every day with their patriotism, their heroism, and their sacrifice. And their families are just as inspiring. And these are men, women, and children who will do anything for their loved ones, no matter what the cost, no matter the sacrifice, no matter the consequences. And so what the Department of Labor is doing today in finalizing this rule is to make sure that the FMLA encompasses the needs of our military families and making sure that they're able to care for their loved ones, they get ready for deployment, they can reunite for R&R, they can make time to welcome loved ones home. And we also take the critical step of making it easier for our colleagues in the airline industry to take advantage of the important aspects of FMLA as well. But as Seth noted, President Obama, in noting this anniversary, has really emphasized that we're not done. There's more to do, and I want to quote him directly. The President said today, "Not all employees are covered by the law, and oftentimes workers cannot afford to take unpaid leave. So as we mark this anniversary, let us recommit ourselves to the values that inspire the law and redouble our efforts on behalf of fairer workplaces and healthier, more secure families." So on behalf of the entire Obama administration, from the President and the First Lady to the Council on Women and Girls, from the leaders throughout our administration, I want to say to you today, we are doubling down. We are recommitting ourselves as we celebrate this achievement and landmark. We declare that it's just the first of many more steps to come to make our workplaces reflective of our 21st century workforce. And I urge all of you, as Seth has pointed out, to join us in continuing that effort. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce someone who is continuing that effort as we speak right now. She has never stopped since this early victory. When she was the co-sponsor of the FMLA, she continues to this very day to continue to introduce legislation that will support working men and working women and their families. It's really my great, great pleasure to introduce our esteemed Congresswoman from the, Connecticut, Representative Rosa Delauro.
Thank you so much, Tina, and what an important day it is, my friends. It really is. Wonderful. First, Secretary, thank you very, very much. Mary Beth and Wage and Hour, thank you for carrying out the enforcement. Appreciate that. And this wonderful birthday celebration, and it's so wonderful to be with Secretaries of Labor, both Hilda Solis, my colleague, and we served together in the House of Representatives, and Alexis Herman. It has been an honor to work with both of you, and thank you for the courage that you have displayed in this job over the years. So we are grateful to both of you for that effort. I also, and I will mention again, I say Judy Lichtman, and it was you, President Clinton, who said that she was a national treasure many years ago, and it's the third time I've had the opportunity to say that in 2 days. Happy to say it. Judy Lichtman at the partnership. Deborah Ness, thank you. Thank you for carrying all of this out and moving on to the paid sick days and paid FMLA. Donna Lenhoff, and all of those who are so instrumental in making this day possible for all of us. 20 years, 20 years. I also want to acknowledge really special people who are here today. Two young ones, Christina Dodd and Grace Dodd with their mom, Jackie Clegg Dodd. And I think it's just wonderful for them to be here today to see the fruits of their dad's labor and a President of the United States and what you can do in this institution. So, and special thanks to a dear friend, a brother, the mentor, Senator Dodd, whom I will say more about in just a moment. I too want to acknowledge Lori Major and her son, Ryan. When Ryan was gravely injured in the field in Iraq, he lost both his legs and digits on his hands. Lori took the time off to stay by Ryan's side during months of surgeries and procedures. Ryan, we say thank you to you for your service and your sacrifice to our country, and thank you for being here today to talk about the reality of this piece of legislation. To you, President Clinton, for all that you have done for America's families, you are a very, very special leader. You led this nation through 8 years of prosperity, enriched millions of lives. And now, with the Clinton Global Initiative, you are working to make this world a better place. It's an honor to be here with you today, and it's wonderful to see the great photographs of you and the senator and others signing that legislation. Really, what a special day. What a special day it was. Since the law passed in 1993, workers have used up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave. It provides for over 100 million, they've used it over 100 million times. What for? To care for newborn children, to care for a sick or injured family member, or just to get better themselves. And I am proud to say, Senator, that our home state of Connecticut played a key role in the development of FMLA. In 1989, our friend and now colleague John Larson, the president of the Connecticut State Senate, helped to pass the first state law in America. John was building on a lot of hard work done here in Washington by the National Partnership for Women and Families, who first drafted the bill. They built a bipartisan coalition to pass this legislation. Congresswoman Pat Schroeder and Senator Dodd, who first introduced the FMLA Act in 1985 and in 1986, and a broad, again, bipartisan coalition of members and family advocates who got it through the Congress 3 times, in 1990, in 1991, and after 2 presidential vetoes in 1993. Members of both sides of the aisle at that time understood the changing needs of working families, and they acted together to make FMLA happen. President Clinton made the FMLA a central issue of his campaign, and in 1993, it was the first bill that he signed into law. And it was the first public policy initiative in our history to reflect the changing nature of working families and the way families live today. 20 years later, the leave has undeniably impacted American workplaces for the better. They are more family-friendly, more productive, more efficient, and they didn't go bankrupt. And as you know, 9 out of 10 covered employers say the act has had either a positive or a neutral effect on their productivity and their growth. If you give employees a modicum of leave to care for their family, it has been good for business, and a profound difference that it has made for families and for women in particular. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 37% of all women in firms with 100 employees or more were eligible for unpaid maternity leave in 1990. Now it is available to virtually all working women in firms with over 50 employees or more. And women still make up almost 2/3, 64% of those who need but do not take leave today because it is not paid for. FMLA has made a huge difference in its first 20 years, but it was always conceived as a first step to making the workplace more family-friendly, so we know we have more work to do. We need to modernize, expand FMLA. One great step forward is being announced today as a final rule, and thank you for what you've done here today. Military families like the Majors can use FMLA to care for injured service members and their family for up to 26 weeks. It grants 12 weeks of exigency leave in the case of a family member in the National Guard who has to deploy, and we need to keep moving forward along these lines. It does the good it does. It is unpaid, and all the good that it does, it is still unpaid today. Many eligible workers cannot afford to take it. 8 out of 10 by the most recent survey. We need to pass paid leave. And being a working parent should not mean choosing between your job, taking care of yourself and your family. Today, 86% of Americans support paid sick-day legislation. We need sick days to be paid to protect public health, to encourage productivity, to boost our economy, and to help employees balance work and family. Connecticut is once again leading the way forward. Our state has passed the first in the nation state-paid sick days into law in 2011, and I hope, just like FMLA, we can take this law national. And speaking of my state, what an honor it is for me to introduce to you Senator Christopher Dodd. I was working as the Senator's Chief of Staff in April of 1986 when he first authored and introduced the Family Medical Leave Act. And I can tell you, before he wrote this bill, he lived and he practiced. In March of 1986, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I went to the senator and said, they're going to put me in the hospital next week. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I was scheduled to take a leave of absence from the Senate office to manage his 1986 Senate campaign. He looked at me and he said, you go and get well, Rosa. Your job is here for you when you get back, and the campaign doesn't start without you. That was Christopher J. Dodd. He introduced that Family and Medical Leave Act every year for almost 8 years, and working to get this bill passed so we could say to parents in Connecticut and to all Americans that they do not have to choose between keeping their jobs and taking care of sick children. It is a testament to the work that Senator Dodd did for working families. He has always been their champion. He made the Child Care Development Block Grant a reality, and the National Head Start Foundation called him the, quote, Senator of the Decade. He taught me
the great potential of the Congress as an institution, which is its real strength, and how to realize it. That you can do great things, and the institution can change people's lives. God knows it can be a frustrating place. It doesn't do what we want it to do every day. But Chris Dodd taught me to keep working, to keep pushing, to keep fighting, be tenacious, and don't ever give up. And at the end of the day, Congress can make a profound difference for American families. And the family and medical leave is just one example, an example we can build on. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Christopher Dodd, we
Thank you for your vision and your courage.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Rosa. Well, thank you, immensely, Rosa. I've been asked many times whether or not I missed Congress. Yes, I do, but not this one, I can tell you. Well, Seth and Tina and Rosa, Mr. President, and all of you gathered here today, thank you very, very much for coming to celebrate a remarkable day in American history, 20 years ago today, at the Rose Garden of the White House. To you, Lori and Ryan, thank you immensely. Ryan, for your service to our country. We're deeply honored you're with us today and demonstrating the ability to fight back and make a difference in this, and we thank you. I'm glad that Jackie is here. My girls, they weren't around 20 years ago. People used to wonder why a single guy cared about family medical leave. I knew you were coming along. That's why I'm here. I knew one day there'd be a Rosa and a Christine and Grace to work with. Alexis and Hilda, it's wonderful to be with you. And Judy and Donna, Deborah, the wonderful people who helped begin all of this many years ago. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize as well the remarkable staff of the House and the Senate back years ago. The people who never's names or names are rarely mentioned in these discussions, but without whom none of this would ever, ever happen. And people like Rich Tarplin, Patty, Jackie Ruff, others in my group, if I start naming them, I'll forget someone, there's nothing worse. People always, they never remember you mention them. The ones you leave out never forget it. So I'll be careful about this along the way. So you got to be very careful about how far you go in that delineation. But I'm grateful to all of them for the wonderful, wonderful job. Rosa mentioned Pat Schroeder. I want to mention her name as well because 20 years ago, she was such a pioneer on so many issues, and on this one indeed as well. And her name needs to be mentioned every time the words FMLA are mentioned. Pat Schroeder's name needs to be included in that list because he made such a difference. George Mitchell was the majority leader of the Senate and made an awful lot happen in those days. Without his leadership, none of this also could have occurred. Ted Kennedy, of course, was a mentor in so many ways on so many issues for so many years, and was a great guiding force as the committee chairman in those days, helping a lot of this happen as well. And obviously other members of the committee. Rosa mentioned the bipartisan effort that occurred back in those days. Almost seems quaint today to talk about it, in a sense. Need not be so, as Rosa pointed out. I'm still one who believes deeply in the institution of the United States Congress and the ability of people to come together for good cause and good purpose, as occurred then. So to people like Arlen Specter, who was a Republican in those days, to Kit Bond of Missouri, and Dan Coates, who's back in the Senate today. They were my three principal co-sponsors of this legislation to create the Family and Medical Leave Act. And there were many others on the other side of the aisle as well. I think, Rosa, you pointed out that some 40 or 45 Republican members of the House supported the Family and Medical Leave Act. And so it's important as we look ahead for these various ideas and how to expand and grow this idea that we never lose sight of the fact that it's important to never give up on anyone, to remind them of the importance of these issues that transcend politics and party, as we say so often. But truly, this is an example of just such a case, when the substance of this idea transcended politics and individual ambitions in a way. We did something that the country needed to do, to start rebuilding families, to give them the opportunity to be with the ones they love and the job they needed to take care of them over the years. I remembered so often, I mentioned this last evening, but I remember various members of the Senate getting up and talking about their own family experiences during various debates. I remember Ted Kennedy, Mr. President, talking about his son, Teddy, who had gone through a cancer operation, lost his leg to cancer. And I think Teddy said he missed several months of his service in the Senate during those days to be with his son in the hospital as he was recovering. No one ever suggested his pay should be docked or his job might be in jeopardy because he did what he felt as a parent he must do, to be with his child during a time of crisis. Jake Garn of Utah talked about the donation of a kidney to his daughter to save her life and what it would have meant had he not been able to do that. No one ever suggested that Senator Garn, in fact, they might have suggested he not be worthy of the Senate had he been on his job and not with his family. And yet many of these same people, not those two particularly, but many others did not understand how important that very idea was to every American family, to be able to be there with your loved ones during a time of crisis. I mentioned yesterday that I voted against the nomination of C. Everett Koop to be Surgeon General. It was one of the numerous occasions where I look back and regretted those votes. There were some, Congress won't admit that too often, but there were votes I wish I could have back in those years, and I voted against his confirmation. But he gave such compelling testimony during the various hearings we had on the subject matter. He was a pediatric surgeon and knew the value of the presence of loved ones during the recovery of someone with an illness. And so I wrote him a letter after I had voted against him some years earlier and apologized and said, I'd love to have the vote back, that you made a difference in convincing people who are far more conservatives ideologically of the importance of this issue transcending politics. Well, that's the history of going back, and that glorious day, a sunny day, back in February of 1993, a newly minted occupant of the White House, and a wonderful election we had just had with Hillary and his daughter Chelsea coming to town, and the battles and how exciting it was after these battles, and his campaign where he made the issue such an important one to the country. Talked about it over and over again. Talked about the importance of this issue. And that if he got to be president, he was going to make a difference and sign that into law. And what a celebration it was that day in February 20 years ago to gather in the Rose Garden for that ceremony to make a difference. But it was beyond that in many ways, and many of you in the room here today bear witness to this, and those of you occupying the offices today can continue this effort. It was the 8 years. February 5th, 1993 was an important day. But all the days thereafter, until January 20th, 2001, were also terribly important. Because this president and the team he put together not only fought back, but opposed every effort to undermine and to water down this historic piece of legislation. Had it not been for President Clinton and his administration, I'm not sure we'd be gathered today to celebrate the passage and the signing of this law, this bill into law. So, Mr. President, let me begin by thanking you specifically, not just for signing this. We admire you immensely for that. But the fight that you fought to see to it that this law would remain on the books of the United States for the past 20 years. We thank you for that. It made such a difference. But it didn't end there, because not long thereafter we've got a new colleague in the United States Senate from New York who cared as much as a husband ever did about these issues, about family and keeping families together. And what a partner indeed in Hillary Clinton. In 2008, when we started to expand this law to see to it that spouses of military personnel, my co-author was a senator from New York, Hillary Clinton. In 2010, when we expanded it further for caregivers of military families, my co-sponsor and battler and all of that was Hillary Rodham Clinton from New York. And so this family, aside from the presidency, has been a fighter for these issues during their entire public life, going back to the days in Arkansas, in fact. I won't go back so long, you'll never get a chance to talk to you this morning if I do that. But I've known the president a long time. And as Attorney General and governor of that state, these were issues they fought for and cared for during every office they've held, whether in Arkansas or nationally or even today, obviously, with the Clinton Global Initiative. And so today we gather to celebrate the passage of a law, the celebration that we're able to do something of value to people in this country to make a difference for them. I've been involved in a lot of legislation over the years. But nothing ever gave me as much pleasure or that I've cared more about than this particular effort. The irony is I end up with my name on other bills, and I'm proud of those as well, but this legislation, more than anything else, is if I were asked to name one bill in 36 years that I took the most pride in, that gave me the greatest sense of satisfaction about making the difference in people's lives, it would be the Family and Medical Leave Act, and that I joined and had a partner by the name of William Jefferson Clinton, who made it become law, fought to see it, that it was established, and had a wife that came to the Senate determined to expand and grow this law to serve many more people in our country. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being a part of this. And would you please give a warm welcome to the President of the United States, William Jefferson Cummings.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Chris Dodd and I have been friends for about 35 years. And it's a hazardous thing when your hair is white and you haven't lost your mind so you can remember those 35 years. But I'll never forget how important this was to him and how much I appreciated it. And I'll never forget the first time Rosa Delauro said to me, she probably doesn't remember, to me in private, what she said to you in public today about working for Chris Dodd and needing to take leave and how much it meant to both of them. Tina Chen, I want to thank you for your work at the White House Council and for your support for the First Lady, and I appreciate what she and the President have done and said on this issue and others related to family and work. I want to thank Hilda, Solis, and Alexis, Herman for their friendship and their service. Sergeant Major, I'm glad you and your mother are here to remind us of the most important lesson of this law. Every time it is used, there is a story. I think that's what animated Seth when he was up here talking. You know, Seth worked for me in the Labor Department for 7 years, for Alexis and for Bob Rice. And I was thrilled when he became Deputy Secretary of Labor. But if I had known he could give a speech like that, I would have urged the President not to appoint him and instead to force him to run for office, because that was a terrific job. I thank you for your service. And thanks to the National Partnership for Women and Families, the AARP, the SEIU, 95, the Conference of Bishops, the Catholic Charities asked me, all the people that are here. And I'm very grateful to you. I want to make just 3 points really quickly, because everything that's said about the past needs to be said. First, there is a story here. And never underestimate the power of these family issues. People desperately want to have successful families, to be good parents, and to have a job and succeed at it. If you take one away to get the other, the country pays a grievous price, and every life is diminished. That's really what this is all about. I've had more people mention the family leave law to me, both while I was in the White House and in the 12 years since I've been gone, than any other single piece of legislation I've signed. I told the representative from the flight attendants today, when I was early on, you know, when I was trying to get used to it, it's hard to get used to not being president anymore, because every time you walk in a room, nobody plays a song anymore. And so you're constantly disoriented for about 3 weeks, and then you got to get used to public transportation, you know, which is really bad. So one day I was on, just a few weeks after I left the White House, I was on a shuttle from New York to Washington, and the flight attendant came up to me. And she said, "I've got something I want to tell you." I thought, she was deadly serious. I thought, oh, another mad voter. And she said, "My father had cancer and my mother had Alzheimer's at the same time. No one could take care of them but my sister and me. Thanks to the family leave law, we got to do this." She said, I know a lot of people in Washington always give speeches about family values, but I think how your parents die is an important part of family values. A total stranger coming to me, I'm sitting there in the plane, I could not breathe. But I have had many other such encounters. Most of them happy stories about getting kids through illnesses and just being there when the children were born, or bringing back a family member from an illness to health. But I never have forgotten that. There is a story behind every one of these takings. Now more than 100 million stories. And I think it is very important for us, as Chris and Rosa both said, as we look ahead, not to forget about this. This used to have a fair amount of Republican as well as Democratic support. Yes, you know, the avatar of the Tea Party, Tom DeLay, said when we were trying to pass this, he said that this was a typical Democratic socket to business legislation. Well, but he didn't have a unified group behind him. We had a lot of Republican House members and Republican senators, as Chris said, co-sponsoring that. Why? Because it was concentrated on the stories and the deep yearning we all have to succeed at home and at work. And the common sense argument that if you force people to choose, if it's either or, the country loses and lives are diminished. And so I think there are a lot of things that ought to be done here. Chris is, from the beginning, he wanted to lower the size of the firms covered from 50 down to 20 or something like that. I've never understood why, in a world where people are changing jobs as much as they are, it made any sense anymore to make people work 1,250 hours before they're eligible to be covered. According to the Labor Department's study, if you just cut it to 780 hours, you wouldn't have any just sort of fly-by-night slackers. That's a fair number of hours. And it's about 6 months, about 6 months' work. You'd automatically get 63% coverage. I think that those things are important. One of the things that wasn't mentioned in all these studies that I think you should be thinking about is that the same trends of changing family life and crushing economic burdens and a lot of social disorder, which we saw in the 1980s and early 90s, which made us so desperate to pass this, also meant that a lot of children were being raised by their grandparents. And if we don't expand this law to allow leave to care for grandparents, there are going to be a lot of older people now already, many of them, all of them in their 70s, the ones I'm thinking about, and some of them in their 80s and 90s, who will have to take their last journey alone. So the second point I want to make is, once you realize there's a story behind it, is that the nature of all politics is constant flux. People will say to me all the time, well, weren't you crushed when you left such and such was undone? And I said, well, I would have preferred to pay the debt down, and I wish we had the money now to deal with this economic crisis. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Which should remind us that we have to be constantly willing to improve. Laws are not meant for monuments. Laws are meant to capture the moment, to do the most possible good at the most possible time, and then to go forward. And it's really, really important here to think about continuing to adapt this law to the changing realities. The only thing that won't change is we will always want people to succeed at home and at work. We will always want to value family and labor. Our country will always need that. And I think I'm really thrilled by this military order, but we've got 300,000 veterans that served with you who have traumatic brain injuries. We have no earthly idea of what adjustments we may have to make when President Obama's term is over. 10, 15 years from now, to honor these values again. So instead of allowing this, one thing that Chris and Rosa and Pat Schroeder and all their allies did, they were brilliant if they did not allow this debate to become a two-dimensional, cookie-cutter, rhetorical, X versus Y, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, same old thing that everybody likes to write about here because it saves you the trouble of thinking. They kept talking about the stories. Look at these people's lives. So I would urge you to use this 20th anniversary to think about all the things that ought to be changed. We could have insurance programs, as New Jersey and California do. We could have the ability to earn more sick time, as Connecticut does and several of our cities do. If the judgment of a majority of the Congress is that the economy is still too fragile to lower the size of the firms now, ask them, when people have been out of work for months and then they come back to work, why should they work more than 6 months before they're eligible for family leave? Cut the days down. And think about the grandparents. There are so many good, decent people in the military today and in civilian life who made it only because of their grandparents. And so I ask you to think about this. Think about how you will feel, those of you in wage and hour and other parts of the Labor Department and all the groups here, 20 years from now, if you can celebrate something that started 20 years ago but looks entirely different. And the last point I want to make is this, for people who get discouraged. Near the end of World War I, the great German sociologist who was a devout Christian Democrat, which had political as well as religious overtones, Max Weber, wrote an essay, which is about 118 pages long, as I remember. It's called Politics as a Vocation. And every time a young person comes to me and asks me about, oh, I'm interested in politics, I love it, I tell them, I said, go read that. And read it again if you have to. Read it as many times as you have to till you understand it. There are 2 points here that are important in this long and highly illuminating essay. One is, keep in mind this guy was deeply religious. He said, now, I believe in political enterprise. There is no alternative to it. But anyone who does it risks their soul. Because if you ask for a position of responsibility, and even in a free society, and you exercise power over others, since you are imperfect, you can and almost certainly will err. And the only antidote is humility. The second thing he said, more important for the present day, is, I never have forgotten, in the English translation, politics is the long and slow boring of hard boards. Chris Dodd introduced this bill every year from 1986 till I signed it. We can celebrate this as if, you know, he popped the bill, Rosa passed it in the House, I signed it. Happy days are here again. You know how long it took us to pass health care reform? Where we had the confluence of a president who cared about it, and we could break a filibuster in the Senate. It's not very complicated. Ask Chris what happened before, right? But the point is that behind those two big facts, there's this accretion of demographic changes, social changes, argumentative things back and forth, forces realigning themselves. You cannot become impatient here. Max Weber was right. We all need to stay humble, and we've got to stay at it. So this is a happy day for me. I told Chris before he got up there, I said, remember what a beautiful day this day was 20 years ago? It was breathtakingly beautiful. And I might say, a little warmer than it is today. It was an amazing day, and I signed that bill. And we had some families, some stories, remember? And I said, this is what a democracy is all about. This is why I ran for this job. This is what I wanted to do. You take all the other stuff, cost of doing business. This is it. I ask you all to think about that. I don't know if we can do anything this year, or next year, or the year after. But you remember a sergeant major here. Remember the look of pride and love in his mother's eyes. And just stay after it. Because in the end, we're still here, the longest lasting free democracy on earth, with all of our bullheadedness and all of our unwillingness to learn from evidence and our competitors and everything else. We still keep stumbling in the right direction toward the more perfect union. Think about it. That's what you're really celebrating. A one moment of triumph that should basically energize us to give everybody else the story they deserve too. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.